looking in detail at two more important Sahih hadith proves that you should pay attention to Dr. Stephen Shoemaker's work to reveal the true story of the creation of the Quran. Last time, Dr. J, who is with me here in studio, talked about a number of questions that really raise basically a series of problems or dilemmas when it comes to the origin of the Quran. Today, he is going to continue along the same line. Dr. J, thank you so much for being here. So you shared a number of questions, I think 5, if I remember, and you want to continue, of course, with additional questions concerning the origin of the Quran and the problem with the traditional story.
Yeah, we're now in 652. We're now with Uthman, the third caliph. He has been in power since 644. There is a problem in Azerbaijan. We know that Udaifa comes down upset that he heard different Qurans being recited in the mosque. We've got to get just one Quran. And so therefore he has Uthman get Zayd ibn Thabit to get Hafsa's copy to rewrite the Quran in the Qurayshi dialect. Now here's my number of questions. How could there be dialectical differences in the mid-7th century? In order to have a written text that is dialectically different, you have to have the dots and the vowels, do you not?
That's right. If you want to read it correctly.
You've got to have that. There were no dots and vowels. Well, there weren't, at least not in the central part of Arabia.
Later they were added, some of them.
And we do know there is a few dots being introduced in Egypt, which is hundreds of miles away. In fact, almost 1,000 miles away. So certainly down in Central Arabia, there was not any dots and vowels that were used at that time. So you cannot have dialectical differences in a written text. In a spoken dialectical, you do, when it's spoken different dialects. But to write it down, you need to have the vowelization, the dhamma, the kasra, and the fatha, and you need to have the dot above, the noon, the ta, the tha, the ba, and the ya, the 5 dots that are needed to create those 5 letters. That didn't exist. So that's the first problem. These were not introduced really until the 8th century, and they were not even finalized and canonized until possibly the 9th, some say maybe even the 10th. Let's go to question number 7. Why did Uthman burn the other copies? So this is the big, major problem. Every time I bring this up to Muslims, they change the subject because they know there's a problem. Why, now, Al-Fadi, why would you burn anything?
Well, you burn anything because you disagree with, because it's critical of your work, or you just don't want anyone to compete with whatever you think is the right thing to say or publish. In other words, it's almost equivalent to people blocking you on Facebook or discounting you and canceling you on YouTube or social media.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. So you burn the evidence. You destroy the evidence, the easiest way to do that. But burning requires a piece of literature. You can't burn you can't burn oralization. Dialects were oral. You speak it a different way. You pronounce a word a different way. You pronounce a sentence a different way. How do you burn orality? You can't burn orality.
And to be honest with you, Dr. J, and again, maybe you're going to talk about this later, it kind of like prompts you to think the fact that there is no diacritical marks or dottings, it almost makes it look like, you know, that's the style of the Aramaic writing, right? Or Syriac writing. So it seemed like maybe that's where it started. No need for these dots. People knew how to pronounce it. And now we're having a problem.
Yeah. Now the burning and the destruction does come, but it doesn't come with Uthman, not that early. Hold on. Shoemaker is going to show us where that burning takes place.
I'm holding on all the time.
Much later. I'm not going to give you the name. You're going to get it, and when it's time, in its own time, in its own season. So this suggests that these are written texts, even at that time. The burning makes sense when there is a written text. There is nothing written at early. We know this because there's no manuscript that early. Now, number 8, Muslims claim they were burned because of different dialects. You cannot burn dialects in a written form. You can only burn dialects in an oral form. Unless you burn the tongue or burn someone's personage, you cannot do that. The dialectical differences come with the qira'ats. The qira'ats don't even begin to appear until 736. That's the 8th century. We're in 652. This is 100 years earlier. Right. Almost about 80 years earlier. And that's just the beginning. And they go all the way up until 908. Or so we're talking about the 10th century. So those dialectical differences, that's a whole nother problem. We're not even going to get into that. Yasser Qadi found it almost destroyed his career because he dared to question or even to try to delve into that. Let's go to question number 9 that I have. And that is the reference to Zayd ibn Thabit, who came upon Surah chapter 33, verse 23, with one man, Khuzaima bin al-Ansari, which means that the earlier Quran was not complete. If he finds another part of the Quran that was not there, then what about the earlier one? Well, if it wasn't complete in 632, how comes it suddenly it's complete in 652? More than that, if it wasn't there in 632, what about the 70 who died with it in their memory? Did maybe they die with a lot of the Quran that went with them?
That's true.
So it could be a lot of the Quran is missing. Wouldn't that explain why none of the stories are complete
For
in the
instance,
Quran?
the stoning verse is not there, not because of death, but at least lack of witness, right? But yet we read that at least one man, his testimony was counted as two. It's kind of confusing.
There you go. The whole thing, the verse on Rajab, the stoning, which is in chapter 24, verse 2, has been changed to 100 lashes. That's what we see for those who commit adultery. The stoning is very clear. We're going to get into that in an upcoming episode where people even bemoan that. Why is it we stoned, the prophet stoned, we stoned after him, but now when you look at the Quran, that verse is not there. The verse, the Rajab, is not there, proving that it's not the same Quran. But that's for another time. I still want to just talk about these two compilations. Number 10, if there was a second Quran in 652, why now many different Arabic Qurans today? Up to 30 different Arabic Qurans. That is the qira'at, that's the ahruf problem.
That's Ibn Mujahid's problem.
That's Ibn Mujahid's problem. And then, of course, 5 to 9 copies that were sent to 5 to 9 prophets. What are those prophecies? Where are they? That's going to be the next episode. We're going to look at those, but I have some damaging question about just even that last statement.
And when we get there, I will share also my opinion about that. But thank you, of course, for sharing this. Everyone, I hope you're enjoying what we are sharing with you. As you can see, just by analyzing 2 Sahih Hadith, meaning authentic Hadith by Bukhari that were compiled 200 and plus years after the death of Muhammad, after the rise of Islam, after the alleged origin of the Quran. Look how many questions we have. And these are just, I think Dr. J is being generous with us here by giving us just a handful of questions, because he can go on for episodes analyzing and criticizing these traditions. And this is why we really appreciate the fact that Shoemaker called his book Creating the Quran. He's not joking. He's not kidding. There is a process of creating what we call today the Quran. And I would argue, in fact, that every step of the way, whether you look at it from the standard Islamic narrative or outside of that, there was a human being involved. A human being involved. Like what? Abu Bakr, if we take the tradition correctly, and Omar. We take Uthman's tradition correctly, that's a human being. Ibn Mujahid, that's a human being. Ash-Shatibi, and we can go on all the way until the 1924 Al-Azhar collection of what we call today the Hafs reading. And the list can go on and on and on. Dr. J, thank you so much as always. Thank you everyone for being here with us. Until next time, God bless. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel Sira International and click on the bell so that you receive notifications whenever we publish a new video or go live. I would also like to appeal to you to consider becoming a Patreon patron by clicking the link right below. By doing so, you can give towards the production of these videos. There are also other options for you where you can give to our channel. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.